But yes, today, this month is National Stroke Awareness Month, and you can kind of see it there on the screen. That is where we are. Dr. Prasad will hopefully be joining us in our discussion fairly soon, so we'll see if he's able to make it. But we got a lot of information that we want to share, and a lot of it is information straight from the CDC. But most importantly, um, Bernard, there's a bunch of folks that have been willing to share their stories. And folks have had some real interesting results in using Dr. Prasad's formulas when it came to strokes. And I'm excited about just sharing some of those just because there are probably a lot of folks here that are just joining us for the first time, and they've never heard anything about a nutritional supplement that could make a difference in their life or in the life of someone that they care about. But they'll hear that today. They're here today, and hopefully they'll appreciate it and be able to go back and tell somebody else, what the results were, and hopefully change somebody's life. So that's what we're kind of looking forward to. So for the record, my name is Jonathan Jones. I'm your host moderator for this afternoon. Bernard Dean and Jeff Ashby are co-hosts, which mean that they do a lot of the housekeeping work and trying to kind of keep things in order and keep me from running off the rails. So that's very much appreciated. Today is May the 5th, as you can see on the screen, and it's 2024. It's Sunday in the afternoon. It's about 5 minutes after 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're talking about stroke this month. Well, today, we're not going to spend the entire month talking about stroke because there are some other issues that we also want to address. Next week, we're going to be talking about a major subject that's coming up now, and it seems to be affecting, in fact, this is the second leading cause of death in this country. We'll talk about that. And then that's going to be followed by a week of hearing your stories. So Jeff loves to pull out of you. I know that'll be the last week of the month is information where you get to just tell your story. That's the last Sunday of the month. So you can just write that down on your calendar. The last Sunday of the month, Jeff will do that. But the third Sunday of the month, we're coming back and touching on this subject of stroke and seeing if there's a correlation between heart disease and how micronutrients can make a difference. So look forward to today's stroke. Next week, we'll be talking about the second leading cause of death. And then the third week, we'll be talking about stroke and heart disease. And heart disease, of course, is the #1 cause of death. And then we'll be hearing some more testimonials. So Jeff will be helping us with that. So we have to, by law, remind you that the FDA has not evaluated the statements that we're making. Testimonials that you'll hear are purely anecdotal, and results are atypical. What happens to one person may or may not happen to you. Engage and myself and other co-hosts are making any claims that Engage Global products, Micro Daily, or any other nutritional supplement is able to treat or cure any disease. We strongly recommend that you seek the competent medical advice of professionals that you trust. What you're hearing today is for information and educational purposes only. The law does allow us to pass on information for educational purposes only. This is information that you can take into consideration when it comes to making a decision about your health and well-being. Information you could take into consideration. But again, we strongly recommend that you seek the competent medical advice of professionals that you trust when it comes to your health. And doctors, by the way, I say this often, that this is the way doctors feel. I interviewed some of them, and they've said that they really wish that their patients were emotionally and mentally involved in their health and well-being. They wish their patients would not just simply rely on them for feeling better. They really do wish that their patients took an active role, played an active role in their health. So this gives you a chance to have some skin in the game, as it were. So let's talk about stroke just a little bit right now. And as I mentioned, National Stroke Awareness Month. What exactly is a stroke? According to the CDC, and this came straight from the CDC's website, it's sometimes called a brain attack. Occurs when something blocks a blood supply to part of the brain or when a blood vessel in the brain bursts. In either case, whether something is blocking a supply to the brain or whether it bursts a blood vessel in the brain, in either case, parts of the brain can become damaged or die. A stroke can cause lasting brain damage, long-term disability, or even death. So that tells you what it is and how serious it is. Here's another graphic that illustrates it, because in order to work properly, the brain has to have oxygen. And there's blood that supplies oxygen to the brain. Have you heard about the blood-brain barrier? The interesting thing is that the blood never actually mixes with the brain. However, it's blood that delivers oxygen to the brain. So you saw in the previous screen, let me just go back to that real quick. Those are blood vessels that's taking blood in and around the gray matter. That's what you see, those white squiggly lines that look like worms. That's what's delivering blood all around the brain. If there's a blockage there, that's where the issue comes in. Or if there's a rupture, that's where the issue comes in. So, but the blood itself never comes in contact with gray matter. When there's a blockage, see that ischemic stroke. And when there's a rupture on the right there, you see that's hemorrhagic stroke. Either one of those can cause a serious problem. There's a blood clot. You see the damage on the left can deprive an entire portion of the brain of oxygen. That portion will die. If the blood ruptures and comes in contact with the brain, that portion of the brain will die. Either one is bad. So it'll do damage to the brain and can cause permanent damage to the brain and or cause death, as mentioned. It only takes minutes to deprive the oxygen of the brain of oxygen to cause damage. It only takes minutes. How common is this? Well, the last month that statistics were available, the last year that statistics were available on the CDC's website was 2020. And it said that at that point, 1 in 6 deaths from cardiovascular disease was due to stroke. So just wrap your mind around that for a second. And you may be saying to yourself, cardiovascular disease causes stroke? See, that's what we'll be talking about in a couple of weeks, is the correlation between this cardiovascular disease and stroke. But you see, 1 in 6 of the deaths from cardiovascular disease. Now, cardiovascular disease is the #1 cause of death in this country. 1 out of 6 of them was due to a stroke. Every 40 seconds in the United States, someone has a stroke. So from the time that we started this discussion, and from the time Bernard said hello, it was about 5 minutes. 5 minutes to 5. And if we take a moment just to do the math, at 5 minutes to 5, that's about 15 minutes. And there's 60 seconds in a minute. So 15 times 60, right? You guys can correct me if I'm doing the math wrong. And divide that by 40. 22.5 people have had a stroke in the United States. Every 3.5 minutes, someone dies from a stroke. So that means in the 15 minutes that this discussion has been going on so far, somewhere around 10 to 12 people have died from a stroke. So 22 had a stroke, half of them didn't make it. Every year, more than 795,000 people in the United States have a stroke. About 610,000 are for the first time. 195,000 strokes, 1 in 4 people who had a previous stroke. Again, this is all statistics from the CDC website. So I'm not telling you anything that you can't look up for yourself. It's just go to cdc.gov and you can find these statistics for yourself. The images that you're seeing kind of gives you an illustrative perspective on it. You know, that's an MRI up at the top, and those red blotches are just kind of showing you where damage has been done inside a person's brain. A few more statistics: 87% of all strokes are ischemic strokes. And that's kind of interesting. 87%. So the vast majority is blockages, not hemorrhagic. They're blockages. The cost, $53 billion in 2017 and 2018. So it's really a huge burden on the medical system, the strokes that are taking place in this country. And as you can see, it's the leading cause of serious long-term disability. The stroke reduces mobility in more than half of stroke survivors age 65 and older. So once you get a couple of miles on you, over 65, if you're unfortunate enough to have a stroke, then there's a pretty good chance, if you survive, 50% of those who survive have long-term disability. And that's sobering. It's distressing. And to be quite honest with you, this is quite depressing. I take a screenshot of this infographic, and basically all it's doing is giving you just a visual of symptoms and risk factors of strokes. So we're not going to go into the details, but obesity is on the list, hypertension is on the list, genetic predisposition. You know, if a person is having the face gets all twisted up, constant headaches, problems on the left side of the body, you know, blurred speech. So a person is saying things, but nothing coming out of their mouth makes any sense. That doesn't mean that Bernard is having a stroke, because you know we can when he's talking. I'm just kidding. Yo, Bernard, we love us some Bernardine. So thank you very much. It's just easy to pick on. But anyway, you can see that, and this happens. This happens. I remember just hearing a story not too long ago, as a matter of fact. There was a gentleman who was in the middle of giving lectures, and it was clear something was wrong. He was starting to appear as though he had some Bell's palsy or something. And then the speech was becoming a little bit garbled. And no matter how many times it was suggested that he go get help right away, he insisted that he would be okay. He just needed to rest. And then finally, someone had the wherewithal to simply stop the music, as it were, and get that man to a hospital. If they had not done so, he would have died. Now, he's recovered, you know, because the medical professionals are really good when it comes to that, if they can handle the problem right away. But it was a ischemic stroke or something like that. So how about we take a couple of minutes now to just share with you maybe one or two testimonials that illustrate the reason for this discussion. Because see, the reason for this discussion is not to tell you all the bad news, because again, you could just Google that yourself. You can go look it up. You can just go to cdc.gov and you can find all this information. But I believe that there's 76 connections here, and sometimes there's 2 and 3 people on each device, so which means that we could have around 150 to 200 people that's here. And I believe that your reason for being here is because you're wondering, is there something that can be done to alter the outcome? Is there something I can do to prevent myself from having it, number one? Or is there something that can be done that perhaps could minimize the damage that has been done, or give a person that I care about some semblance of normalcy? And that's probably what you're wondering at this point. So we're gonna share a couple of stories with you that illustrate that. My favorite really is 2 that Jeff shared, and because you know Jeff always has stuff up his sleeve. But the one that I'm most fond of course, is my own sister and her story. So I'm gonna play that one for you. I'm gonna stop the share and let you hear Terri. We grew up together, so we're more like brother and sister than we are friends. We graduated from high school together, and she married my best man. So we've known each other again since we were like about 12 years old. So that's how far back we go. So she's like family. But her husband called me and said that Terri had a problem, and that she was in the intensive care. She was in ICU, and when this was during COVID, by the way. I said, well, can I go and see her? He said, well, they won't even allow me to go and see her. And he's the husband. They wouldn't allow him in. So I'm not one of those people that you're not allowed to go in. I'm just not one of those kinds of people. So I got dressed and I grabbed a bottle of micro daily and some little baggies. And I sorted out the little baggies and put 3 capsules in every bag and stuffed them all in my pockets. I put on a jacket, put on a tie, and I have a volunteer badge that I use when I go to this particular hospital once I found out which hospital she was in. And I just marched on over there, put my mask on, and walked in like I own 51% of the stock and asked what room she was in. They told me, and I went to the elevator and went straight up. She nearly had a heart attack when she saw me standing at the door, forget that stroke. But by this time, she had been transitioned from ICU over to a regular room. The entire left side of her body was gone. Okay, so I just set that up for you. That's my version of the story, my perspective from the story. Now I'm just going to let you hear her tell her story. See if I can get this to play properly. I just need some cooperation here, computer. Just a little bit of cooperation. Her name is Terri Fitzgerald. Just maybe start out, just tell us how the story began.
Okay, so I heard Althea mention at the beginning the connection of stroke and COVID-19. I had been reading up on that too, because the fact is stroke has always kind of been the boogeyman of my life. I was always aware of the threat. My grandmother had a massive stroke at 81 and died, and my baby brother was 28 when he was riding home from a wedding reception with his family, and he had a brain aneurysm and he died. So, you know, it was always like, oh my, you know, I could have a stroke. And when they diagnosed me with sarcoidosis back in 1990 and gave me mega doses of steroids and all kinds of other toxins, my system went into just uncontrollable high blood pressure, and that's where I live. And so it was always kind of the specter of a vascular accident, heart attack, or stroke happening. So I tried to eat right. I tried to do the things you need to do, and didn't process stress well, but still I tried. And then, well, guess what? Tuesday, May 5th, the boogeyman came knocking at my door. Stroke. I had a stroke. And I had watched all the videos with the people in the society's videos of people having strokes and, you know, coming back, and the friends and the family, but nothing prepares you for that. Nothing prepares you for that. My husband said, well, you know, he called the paramedics right away. He said that I said, I have no idea. But he says, I said, I'm scared. I don't know what I said, but I knew right in that very ordinary instant, I was getting ready to get up and go get ready for the meeting. Everything in my life changed.
That's amazing. So that was this past Tuesday night this took place.
Yes.
So you made it to the hospital, and it was a very short period of time before the paramedics got there. So about 5 or 6 minutes before they got there. So what was your stay in the hospital like, and what was the prognosis?
Got there, ER, everybody was moving me around and yelling the words brain attack, which I wasn't really familiar with, but they kept saying brain attack, you know. And that was a bit disconcerting, but they kept trying to keep me calm, and they kept running all kinds of tests. And so
keep you calm while shouting brain attack.
While shouting brain attack, exactly. But anyway, finally, the neurologist came in, and he just looked me in the eye and he said, "You've had a stroke." And he started talking about giving me that injection you hear people talk about, where if they get it in you right away, it's supposed to dissolve blood clots. But he let me know, he was a very good doctor, I feel. He let me know that he wasn't too sure the risk would outweigh the benefits, because he said it will make you bleed everywhere. It will just make you hemorrhage inside and out. And there is that problem for you, since you don't believe in blood transfusion. And I asked him what he thought I should do. And he says, well, I really don't think you should take it. And he said, we'll see how things go. You seem to, you know, be a candidate for some recovery. So then they started using those words like blood clot. And then they kept saying occlusion. And then they'd say stuff like cyst at the base of the brain. And I don't know. But anyway, their big concern was this occlusion. And they kept saying that, you know, it was shutting off part of my brain. The blood was not flowing freely there. And so because of that, you know, I was going to have problems. They put me in ICU for a while. And the thing of it was, I suddenly realized that that side of my body was gone. I no longer had. They'd ask me if I could see, you know, they do this little figure. I couldn't see anything, couldn't move anything. Nothing was happening. When they stand me up, I'd fall over. I couldn't sit up, couldn't stand up, because it was just gone. And they were very encouraging. They kept saying, well, in time, if you don't give up, if you, keep your spirits up, you will eventually get this side of your body back. I mean, you see, I'm waving both hands though, but they said eventually, because it was gone at that point, and it wasn't something that they thought there would be a quick comeback.
And that was on Wednesday?
That was on Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm. So how long were you in ICU? That was overnight Tuesday and into Wednesday, or no?
Yes, right, correct.
So they move you into a regular room by Wednesday. How do you feel that adding micro daily impacted you? Could you just tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. Well, I'm not a miracle cure person, but and you know me, as you said, you've known me for years. I'm a bit skeptical about anything and everything, but I will try things. And I know that Jehovah designed the body with an amazing capacity to repair itself. And given the right tools, I know that can happen. So my baby brother snuck into the hospital against all odds, and he started me on supplements. He started me on supplements right away. And I wasn't expecting anything, and I'm not, saying anything, but just to cut to the chase, I woke up that next morning, because I always wake up at 3 a.m. Well, always anyway, but especially there because it was so hot. And I get all tangled in the covers because I had no use of the left side of the body. So I'm, tugging and pulling with the right side and kicking with the right side normally. But all of a sudden, I was awakened by the fact that both sides of my body were kicking. Both legs were kicking. Both hands were tugging. And it kind of freaked me out at first. I thought maybe I was dreaming. So I didn't get up, but I just lay there and I extended my hand into the air and my hand went up, and that freaked me out a little bit. So then I wiggled my fingers and they worked, which was shocking to me because I wasn't dreaming. It really was happening. And I mean, was it a miracle? Was it the supplements? Was it both? Whatever the case, it wasn't a fluke. Because it didn't just happen. I mean, it continued on throughout the day. And so much so, I mean, I'm just going to say, which was kind of funny to me, but not really. The doctors and the neurologists and the people who had seen me in the beginning, they knew I had a stroke. But as the new nurses came on duty and they would tell the next nurse what was going on, they go, well, they say she had a stroke. Like they didn't even believe it anymore, And I'm like, I had a stroke. I really had a stroke. But the level of transition from one day to the next was so drastic that there were those coming on duty for the first time looking at me. I didn't look like a stroke victim. So, I mean, those who knew, because there's still a little deficit in my left side, a little heaviness of the tongue. But, I got my memory, I got my words, I got mobility. So it was just kind of hard to believe.
That was, that's pretty remarkable. You told me a story about one nurse, and you don't have to tell this part of the story if you don't want to, but you were in distress at the time, and she said that you were not in distress. This was before you started your supplements. Just how immobile were you at the time when the nurse finally believed it?
Oh yeah, exactly. That was a very scary point because you're COVID-19. You're in there alone. You are completely reliant on medical personnel. And they're just people, they I don't know, whatever they do as they're there. So they listen or they don't. And yeah, this lady was not listening to me. I mean, I was in a state of distress, like you said. And they told me, because I was vomiting, which is really gross, but they want me sitting up. Because they said, because I had a stroke, I could aspirate, I could die. And I'm telling her this is what's happening. And she's telling me, no, you're not, So, and it is frightening, but, you just pray and hope you survive it. But it was kind of harrowing. I wasn't sure that I would survive it at that point. But as I say, and the point to me is I got through that particular night and I don't know. I'm just thankful to Jehovah that I had an advocate, that I had people who could get in there and see me, namely you, and that he was looking out for me. And I know that he was, because, it's just no telling in this day and time how things will work out. But
well, it's not a good time to be in the hospital. That's for sure.
it's really not a good time to be in the hospital.
And that's kind of the thing that we've been talking about here on this call for the past few weeks, is we're trying to tell folks, be proactive, do something now. An ounce of prevention right now definitely beats a pound of cure, because you might not be able to get that pound of cure when you get in the hospital. But let's talk to you a little bit more now. What do you think your prognosis is now, and what are the medical professionals saying?
Yeah, well, because they sent me home on health care once I was mobile. So every day somebody comes. I've had a doctor come, I've had a nurse come, I've had 2 therapists come, and they do their assessments and they do the therapy. And everybody says, wow, you're doing great. It's amazing. And I totally agree. I mean, they talk, and they were still being very encouraging at first. They talk maybe months, maybe years, but all of that has sped up just tremendously. I mean, it hasn't been 2 weeks, and it's sped up tremendously. And there's been, just that dramatic change, which, has shocked me. It's also seemingly shocked them as well. And, I feel like, I'm going to keep on with the supplements, as you mentioned. And with Jehovah's help, I'm just looking to get better and better. And I mean, seeing is believing for me. What can I say? Like I said, everything is in motion. I'm up, I'm at 'em, and with Jehovah's help, I'm going to try to keep it as optimal as possible.
Well,
so there you have it. That was a story, and and I don't know if you guys are a little bit, shocked, to hear it, but I've got a little bit of a extra treat to share with you now. Because I didn't ask Terri to do this, but she no doubt saw the note as to what was happening. So I asked her to come on, since I see that she's here, and just give us a little bit of an update and tell us how she's doing. She probably hasn't had a chance to meet Dr. Prasad before. So Terri, thank you very much. That recording was taken a few minutes ago, and you just brought an interesting fact to my attention. So tell us what's significant about today.
Well, I did show up because today is quite literally, the anniversary of my stroke, the 4th anniversary. So 4 good years going strong, which is kind of a big deal. I went to get my yearly physical last month, and the doctor took a look at my blood work, everything. She said, you know what, take it home and frame it. This stuff looks great, which, wow. Wow. So, I'm still doing, the same regimen that you put me on in the hospital, my micro daily and other supplements, and just working with it. But so far, so good.
All right. Well, that's excellent, and glad to hear it. We have Dr. Prasad here right now. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to meet Dr. Prasad personally. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Prasad. I want to introduce you to my sister.
Thank you.
Terri, you just heard her story, and Terri, this is Dr. Prasad, the gentleman responsible for having your left side of your body.
Right. Nice to meet you, sir. And thank you for your research in the field and everything that you put out there. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It was fascinating story. I'm very happy that you feel so well.
Well, we're happy that it worked as well as it did, and we're excited because now, mind you, there's times when I wouldn't mind it if she lost her ability to speak, but it's better when all her body parts
blame
function.
Dr. Prasad for that.
Yeah,
not me.
But it's better when all body parts and all her functions work best. So that's a good thing, because she's actually very valuable in many areas. So, but thank you, Terri, for the update. And Dr. Prasad, now maybe we can continue with you. Since we have you here now, help us to understand how it is that a micronutrient can make such a vast difference when someone has lost some body flow. blood is not going to their brain, and they suffer this ischemic stroke. That's what she had. How is this possible, Dr. Prasad?
Well, only reason I can see that her body must have a very high level of oxidative stress and inflammation, very high. And one of the major function of micronutrient is to immediately reduce it. In some cases, chronic cases, it takes a little time, but in her case, it was acute, and that was causing that problem. And so once you took micro daily, I don't know how long you took micro daily, or how long after taking micro daily you have this reversal effect. You see what I mean?
Yeah, she's still here. She had two, she took two. How many did you take before you experienced the difference, Terri?
Well, the difference was pretty quick. I mean, within a couple days, and it was
you
just
take
like that.
capsule or hydro?
She
Did
took
you take capsule or hydro?
The capsule. The capsule.
Capsule, okay.
Let me correct the record on this, Dr. Prasad.
Okay.
Because by the time I got to her, I gave her a handful of little baggies with 3 of your original capsules in it.
Mm-hmm.
She swallowed one in front of me. I wanted to make sure she wasn't going to choke and die. So I saw her get it down herself and reach over and get her own water and drink it. So that gave me confidence she could do it on her own. Then she did that again before she went to sleep that night. And I was there probably about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She did that again before she went to sleep that night. What she described was what happened after 2 doses, Dr. Prasad, that night.
That's that's the only thing I can say, that her body, for whatever reason, has very high level, a lot of producing free radicals. Did you have any other kind of disease before, or?
I have chronically, I have sarcoidosis, and so
just like,
I mean, it's in remission, but it is an ongoing
because
disease.
in sarcoidosis, as you know, it has a very, very high level of inflammation, and Dr. Piccola has that problem, and but it took some time for her because it was not a acute case, and some time to resolve it. Now she is fully resolved, and but 2 doses, only thing that in your, for somehow inflammation become too high, and that can affect heart flow of blood, everything else in your body. And when you took those things, that they got immediately reduced, and therefore you felt better. And as time goes along, you will feel better and better. That's the only explanation. This is amazing a story I can give. It may not be my explanation, may not be true, but that's what I know.
That's it. Thank you again, Terri. So that's pretty amazing, Dr. Prasad. Well, we have another one we want to share with you, and we want to take any comments that you have on this. Jeff has this story because Terri had her story, her stroke on a Tuesday, and she received the product on I think that was Thursday or Friday was when I got to her and handed her those capsules. So this was within the week, basically. And she had no other treatment because, as you could see, her doctor said that if she took it, she was going to bleed everywhere. And there was a fear because she would not take a blood transfusion. So she decided not to, and the doctor recommended her not taking it. But now, Jeff, tell us a story about this other gentleman. Jeff?
Well, I feel impressed to just lean into this and say, really, the reason that we have such a passion for these products is my very own father's experience. During the week when we had just been handed a sample, and Helen was trying it and I was trying it, my mom had called me and said, on your father's way out to get the mail at 2:30 earlier today, he suffered a stroke. Lost the entire use of his left side of his body. Couldn't sit on the left side. He was dragging his leg. He couldn't make a fist or grip or even use that side of his body. She had called the doctor, and the doctor said, "Hey, let's schedule you in for a neurological workup with a neurologist." And they had set that for so this happened on a Wednesday. They set it for Thursday, just the very next day, as the first time that they could get him in. So it was during that time when my mom called me and I says, we may have an answer. This product was tested on U.S. Marines who had suffered combat-related concussions, actually brain issues, as part of their experience over in Afghanistan and Iraq. And so my mom and little sister met Dr. Hodson off of the freeway in Springville, Utah, where Dr. Hodson gave my mom 3 of those original packets. And she says, I want you to give to your husband 3 times the dose tonight. So instead of just doing 2 capsules, which would have been a Wednesday evening, she gave my mom 3 packets. She says, I want you to pop out all 6 capsules, so 2 times 3 on Wednesday night, and give those to your to your husband. He did that, had another triple the dose on Thursday morning, and then another triple the dose right before his appointment with the neurologist. And Jonathan, within 24 hours, my mom drove him to the neurologist, but my dad was able to get out of the car just fine. He was able to walk into the doctor's office just fine. And he says, tell them that we did nothing, because he was kind of embarrassed going into, just like your friend here. He didn't look like he had just had a stroke. He didn't act like he had just had a stroke. They did an entire neurological workup and said, Mr. Ashby, you must have just gotten severely dehydrated. And so it was an ischemic stroke. I mean, they were able to determine that in the visual cortex, some of the peripheral vision hadn't returned, and the ophthalmologist is the one that confirmed that Dad had the symptoms of a stroke, because they were able to determine it that way. Now, there was that experience. Let me go 4 years later. Dad had a similar situation, and it didn't happen at home. It happened at a church, and all of the brethren got together and they took him to the hospital, and he was able to sign himself in. Things were just fine. My mom met him there, and they did a CAT scan, and there was a little pea-size dot on the right side. And they took that approach. We want to increase his blood pressure and put some emulsion into his system that would break up that clot. And so they turned an ischemic clot into a hemorrhagic stroke, and produced a grapefruit-sized black spot on his brain. And he ended up spending almost 33 days in intensive care.
Wow.
And so I contrast those 2 experiences.
Wow.
A lot of times I get to talk about Dad's first experience and how quickly the body was able to handle things. And then I talk about Dad's, I don't get to talk about his second experience, where Western medicine went in. My mom had to sign all the forms and all the paperwork, but he ended up walking in, signing himself in, being just fine. And then 33 days later, he's learning to walk again. He's going through all of that because they forced the issue.
Wow.
And so if we'd have just gotten a therapeutic dose to Dad that second time, but he was already there, already under the doctor's care, and we could do nothing about it, but other than just go with their recommendation. And I really feel like had we done that like we did 4 years earlier, it would have saved almost $500,000 in insurance billing, because of spending almost 33 days in intensive care and then doing everything that they did. So
Hmm.
yeah, 3 times the dose, or almost $500,000.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Wow.
That's mind-boggling, Jeff. So um I'm doing the math here now. So I'd say Terry owes me a little bit of money. So that even if I cut that down to 1/3 of the cost, she owes me about $150,000. So, but anyway, so that's kind of a sad story there. Jeff.
It was tough, and through the rest of Dad's life, didn't ever really recover from that second occurrence. It was difficult because he had spent so long in that type of a situation where his body, even though he was going to all of the therapies and doing everything that he could, just that portion, if you can imagine a pea size to a grapefruit size dark
Wow.
spot on his brain,
Hmm.
because Western medicine jumped in and wanted to save the day. But we started with these stories on strokes, and it's powerful. Instead of going to Patrick's experience, though, I'd like to go to Anita's, because Anita had her both my dad's and your friend Terry's experience were immediately following a
Yeah,
stroke.
pretty well short term. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So let me share with you somebody who had an ischemic stroke 10 years before microdaily entered into her experience.
That would be good.
She goes through some of those things. So yes, if you don't mind, I'll
Sure.
just
Yeah, you can go full screen, and just
Okay.
going to pull us off the screen.
Sounds good. And so this is Anita. Pretty amazing experience.
And let's see, December 18th of 04, I had an ischemic stroke in the left thalamus of the brain. It's a rare place to have a stroke. It's not a very good place to have a stroke. I came home in a wheelchair. They said I would never walk again. And I was determined that I was going to do that. So anyhow, I did all the stuff that we do, all the therapies, did it for years. Got to a certain point, but the problem with the stroke being in the left thalamus is several. First of all, I had neuropathy on one half of my body. So it started with my whole head, eyes, ears, neck, all the way down, just cut me right in hand, foot. And that's just terrible. All you ever feel is neuropathy, the cutting, the burning, the stabbing, and then that's your life. And they give you drugs, but it doesn't ever make it go away. It never stops. I could never wear sandals. I always had to have something thick on my foot because it hurt. The other thing that happened to me, my short-term memory loss, which was so frustrating, being it was in the left thalamus, just destroyed the short-term memory. Never had a hope of that ever coming back. I could never remember anybody's names. I couldn't, I went anywhere in the car. If I had to go the next day, doctor's appointment, wherever you go to, I had no idea where to go or where I was or what part of town I was in. That's how bad it was. I would go to any restaurant, any place, and I would always walk out of the bathroom and I could never figure out how to get back to my table. That's how short my memory was. So I struggled with that for 10 and a half years. And then I got on this in June, a year ago in June, and I started taking it, and the pain was a little bit less. After about 5 months, I thought, I'm gonna try cutting back on some of the drugs, just see what happens, right? I was on amitriptyline, baclofen, Zocor, Lyrica, and meloxicam. And before MMF, I couldn't probably tell you one of those names because I couldn't remember. But so I started weaning off after about 5 months on it, and just kept trying, and I was like, doggone it. I didn't feel any worse pain by weaning off, but I was starting to feel better. I wasn't so tired, And then, you know, brain fog started going away. I mean, relatively, you know, it's still there. I know, they know me.
I know you.
I know, still there, but not as bad. You didn't know me before. So, it's a lot less. I now can remember which way to come out of the bathroom, go back to my room. So all of those things,
She drove herself here.
yes, yes. You know, just, and then all of a sudden too, I'll just tell you real quick, even 3 months ago, my hand uncurled for the first time in 11 years. Did you? Do you remember? This pinky was always like this. This was always giving everybody the finger, and it was really and all of a sudden, that just uncurled. Another thing, you know, when you have a stroke, you know, you really can never do a lunge. You know, you just can't do, because your whole side goes like this. So all of a sudden, I'm able to do that kind of thing, you know. I didn't even sort of say a little bit. So anyhow, that's it.
What a
Wow.
joy. What a joy to have somebody after 10 years of suffering and being on that many different medications, to see Anita's life change and really, it was
How
pretty.
much he was taking? How much?
She was just doing regular doses, Dr. Prasad, just regular doses. We feel like it could have been sped up had we known better. But she says, you know, it was after about 6, 7 months, these things started to happen. And so
She took how long she took before she became like what she is today?
it was about 6 months worth, about 6 months of her body just taking normal doses. It was able to correct a problem that had happened, as she talks about, almost 11 years earlier.
That's amazing. That's really amazing story. And that the reason is because see, the brain also has a cell, what we call a precursor of neuron, and they have capacity to regenerate. In other words, they are not in a neuronal form, like mature neuron. They are kind of a precursor. And then when they become differentiated, then they become form all those dendrites, long axon, and so on. And so the only thing I can interpret is that, as you know, that in that under that scenario, brain has a glia cell, which has which is like immune system of our body, for brain, and when they get activated, they started producing a overreaction, pro-inflammatory cytokines, and since her disease was such that she could not be taken care, and so it happens, and nobody can intervene that. And whatever he was taking medication was symptom of the disease rather than what is causing the disease. And when microdalia started coming, the inflammation came down, then brain has time to regenerate. So brain has a tremendous regeneration capacity in younger people, not like me, I'm too old, but younger people is a tremendous capacity to regenerate. And also, not only that, brain has what is called a plasticity. In other words, you start losing neuron without doing anything normally, you know, at 10% every 10 years.
Ooh,
And
that's
so, but
depressing.
still you don't feel, you know, you remember, you do your job and everything until the neuron loses 70% of neuron, then you start feeling, oh, I'm forgetting this and that progressive disease. And so even though during at times he might have lost some more neuron, but again, under good environment, they can perform very just like a normal function. And so, but still, you know, modern medicine that we have, they could not handle that kind of situation because they don't, none of that I know, they address the causes. What is causing it? They induce what is the symptom is. Many times, sometimes the symptoms get reduced, but causes are still there and they're still progressing at the rate that they're supposed to damage you. And so eventually you lose everything. And so this kind of intervention, I don't know how to convince a physician that you have to know something about what is going on in your body. Sometimes you try to address what is causing it. And they
Right.
know it because these are all published information. But in
Yeah,
their
but
book training, they just use symptoms, not the causes.
because they're bound, and of course, big pharma, has a protocol that
Yeah,
they want
yeah,
them to
yeah,
go through.
yeah.
So, because she was
But
on all the medications that would
yeah,
have every
yes,
treatment
I
she could
always say
get.
that keep the medication. Our things is just supportive,
Yeah,
and it does not have an adverse effect until you are taking something like Eliquis, and then you can't take too many. Few things you can't take very much, like
right.
vitamin E, for example, or uh, one of the bromelain digestive enzyme that we don't have. But in any case, I'm very happy to hear these kind of results because this is nobody will believe it. If you go to talk to your cardiologist, they will not believe it.
No, 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 they wouldn't, Dr. Prasad.
So she was not taking Core 4. She was just taking micro daily, as I understand it.
That's all we had at that point.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, that's better, but now we have some more. So further improvements, people can affect it. And one
Well,
of them is not only probiotics, that's amazing how intestinal dysbiosis is absorbed almost every diseases.
mm-hmm.
And I will send you, I just came out one paper I wrote, reversal of intestinal dysbiosis in improving cancer treatment.
Oh, fantastic. They'll
It
share that next
is
week.
not like you are giving chemotherapy and radiation therapy. Here they think that I feel sorry for oncology. They don't know that the once you have a cancer, and it has a very important role in the development and progression of the cancer to start. So when you start treatment, intestinal dysbiosis exists already. Now the new data shows that radiation and chemotherapy will further aggravate that intestinal disturbance. In other words, there will be more toxic bacteria than before. And what it does, it interferes, it aggravates the side effect, acute side effect of therapy, like radiation therapy. So you have more diarrhea, you have more this, and
Yep.
and some of these things that make people have major. And then somebody puts in supplement. Sometimes some doctor will try just one supplement, like say Biofido, Bacillus,
Right.
but still even that one sometimes have some effect. But anyway, so if you use the probiotics with prebiotics, this is very important. Many times even people don't understand the difference. So sometimes in a clinical study, they will try just probiotics without prebiotics. And some people have tried clinical study just with prebiotics without probiotics. And the result has been sometimes yes, sometimes no, but average, that we have a very good one. And so intestinal dysbiosis is so important for cancer treatment, for cancer prevent. Anything you look at, and of course, in almost all human diseases, Parkinson, Alzheimer, we wrote a letter, but the diabetes, I have supported that in my publication. So,
Mm-hmm. No, what we have, thanks to you, Dr. Prasad, and what Terri said, was really a mouthful in giving you the credit that she has for her functioning body. And she's taking all these products now. In fact, she's finding herself and all of her issues are ameliorating as a result of it. Now, just for the sake of our audience, please keep in mind that testimonials are purely anecdotal. What happens to one person may or may not happen to you. And we strongly recommend that you seek the competent medical advice of professionals that you trust. But this, what you're looking at here right now is a strong indication that there is something that you can put in your body, a nutritional supplement that you can put in your body. Is not going to cure any disease, but it certainly will help your body do what it's designed to do.
exactly.
And I love what Dr. Prasad said earlier when he said to Terri, my sister, he says she must have had extremely high levels of inflammation and um, oxidative stress. So there must be some level of inflammation in her body that caused this, some free radicals in her body that did this. And of course, and she disclosed that she had an additional condition, sarcoidosis also. But it made a huge difference right away. And then 10 years later, Anita also got tremendous benefits
Yeah, that's amazing.
from the same products.
Yeah.
So this really says something for the rest of us, Dr. Prasad. So I take your formula every day, and I found a way that works for me. I put it in hydro every day, and I drink 3 of these down. One of them in the middle of the day does not have hydro in it, but the one in the morning and the one in the evening does, and that's my easy way of getting down and getting my right amount of water in. But for everybody else, you just saw the core 4, and the core 4 is what Dr. Prasad recommends. But everything else you're looking at now, these are boosts. These boosts are powerful. We don't have time to talk about them all right now because we're just about the end of our discussion. But look at the core 4. Now, Bernard did the research just to confirm it, and he sent me the note that the retail cost on the core 4, if you bought all these items full price, it'd be $310. And so we don't recommend you spend that kind of money. If you took the ingredients in Micro Daily and added them up, one of our team, one of our affiliates said that the price was somewhere in the area of $500 just for Micro Daily if you purchased all the ingredients. Then, of course, you'd have to figure out the right amount of each one of those ingredients in Micro Daily to take. But Dr. Prasad's done all the work already. And then Engage Global, I call it subsidized. They're subsidizing our health by giving it to us at a cost that's only $199. And I just don't know how he can do it, but Dave Nemelka is a very generous man. And he does want to bring health and wellness to the world. So we just have to get the word out. So I can't understand. Don't get me wrong. I do know that some people can't afford $199, $200. I know that. And if that's the case, we're going to show you some options as to what you can do from a minimal perspective just to improve your health. Because remember, my sister, all she got was Dr. Prasad's formula. At the time, that's all we had. We didn't have all these other products, but it changed the outcome of her health. Anita, same thing. That's all we had. It changed the outcome of her health. But Dr. Prasad's research indicates that these ancillary products, these boost products, can make a difference in the quality of our life going forward. Now, here's one special thing that we want to tell you about for this month, for National Stroke Awareness Month. Dr. Prasad's children's or kids formula was just awarded a patent. And I think everyone should right now stand up and applaud. This man got yet another patent awarded for his products. And I think this is just absolutely unbelievable that someone of his caliber still working, still cranking out award-winning and patentable unique product. The only product in the world that's truly 100% healthy for children. So if you decide to go on the Core 4 subscription at the subsidized price by Engage Global of $200 this month, Dave Nemelka is going to also give you one of Dr. Prasad's children's gummies. So you can just go ahead and just take that one to the bank. You just can't beat what we're looking at right now. So talk to the person who invited you here, and they'll tell you about the different levels here. The only one that will get you the free gummies is the Core 4 at the top, but you go with what your budget will allow for, the basic bundle or the premium bundle, if that's the best that you can do. But whoever invited you, they will help you to sort out how to get a subscription, because you want to just go on subscription to get the deep discounted price. That's the whole point. And in case you're saying to yourself, but I don't want to buy a bundle, I want to buy everything a la carte. Well, retail was $312. A la carte, even if you went on as a preferred customer, would be somewhere around $225, $250, I think it was, Bernard. But when you buy the bundle as a preferred customer, that's what gets you all the way down to $199. So no matter what you purchase, you want to purchase as much as you can with the bundle. And each one of those boost items, get on the phone, call customer service, and they'll give you further discounts for every boost product that you add on. So don't do it online. Call customer service so you can get those additional boost items provided for you. Okay. And then just finally, next week, I don't think Dr. Prasad will make it. I hope he does, but if he can make it, we're going to be talking about getting a better outcome with cancer. And he just published a new paper about intestinal dysbiosis and the impact it has on cancer. So if Dr. Prasad is here with us next week, we're going to be talking about that.
Yeah, I will be there. Yeah.
Okay, you heard it and it's recorded. You heard him. He said he'll be here next week for that one.
Yeah, next week I'm not going. I don't know any plan. I have to go anyplace, so we will do that. And also that Tuesday, as you know, Jonathan, we are going to launch because it has been patented about gummy. So if you want to know more about gummy, next Tuesday, which is 7th.
This Tuesday night on March the 7th, Dr. Prasad is going to be doing a deep dive on those children's gummies and why
Much more detailed, yeah.
is what it is. So, oh my goodness, Dr. Prasad, you give me chills. Not only are we going to be able to get the details about the gummies this coming Tuesday night, but you're going to come back and we're going to really just nail it on the subject of cancer and your new research on cancer and intestinal dysbiosis. Jeff, what do we do to deserve this? Help me with this, Jeff.
This is just an amazing month of May. Just wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yep. Glad we're all here. And what an incredible evening we've had here tonight with you, Jonathan. I know we're stretching just a little over an hour here, but thank you again, Dr. Prasad, for being here and filling in those gaps of our understanding, that detail as to even just what happened with my dad. So thank you.
Yep, that's exactly right. So Dr. Prasad, we can't thank you enough. And I thank everybody for being in attendance. We appreciate you coming out, and we look forward to hearing what you've got to share with us next week, Dr. Prasad. So
that would be great. Yeah.
All right, everybody. You guys have a good night. My team, 6:15.
Thank you, Dr. Prasad. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Jeff.
Thank you
God
all
bless
three.
you
It's
all.
like, it's like a
Thank
little
you, Dr.
television
Prasad.
show tonight. Like a little television
Thank you,
show.
Dr. Prasad. Thank
Nice,
you, Jeff.
nice.
Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you, Prasad.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Bernard. Thanks,
Have a blessed
Jonathan.
evening, everyone. Thank you,
Hey,
Jonathan.
Dr. Prasad, look like
Love you.
cancer is ravishing people. So next week you are going to really be needed right from the beginning.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I'm telling you, people are really getting a lot of cancer these days.
Oh, I
Yes,
know.
we
I know.
are.
This is a statistic said that's very true. And
Thank you.
as you know that we have a patent for the cancer, and I will discuss a lot of stuff there.
Well, I have about 5 or 10 people I'm gonna try to have on here next week because they have been looking for something, and I have heard some amazing cancer stories lately that I have to tell you about. I mean, I've seen some
I'd
stuff
love to
that
hear that.
I had to walk away and look at and said, I cannot believe Micro Daily is doing this.
Yep.
So you're gonna see some stories and hear some stories. Unbelievable.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Some mind-boggling stuff is coming out next this week for you, Dr. Prasad.
Okay.